Have you guys seen these videos? They'll say like, why men don't read books, or why aren't men reading fiction? I saw an article the other day. It said, why straight men don't read fiction. Well, I guess we're gay for books. What's up? What's going on? I didn't read. It's gonna be a bit of a different video. I've actually been thinking about this one, which I almost never do. Yeah. So this was inspired by a comment left by Faceless Reviews. Go check out his channel. He's a cool guy. And if you haven't figured it out, he does faceless reviews of books that he reads. It's pretty cool. He does a good job walking around in the cemetery, I guess, disturbing the ghosts with book reviews. But anyway, he left a comment saying that his son, who's around my age, a little bit younger, he doesn't read fiction. Like if he reads fiction, it's something kind of serious like Animal Farm or 1984, which I absolutely relate to. And actually one of the reasons I made this channel is because I wanted to read more fiction, like as a challenge to myself, because I kind of, I boxed myself in as a young man, thinking that everything I spent my time on needed to be this idea of what's serious. And so yeah, I've been thinking about that, and there's, like I said, there's lots of videos suggesting how to get people to read that don't read, like different, like, you know, how many times can we suggest that people read Fight Club? Of course, anybody's just gonna like to read that. It's fun to read. There's lots of books like this, especially for men, that if they don't like reading, they could go check that out and they'll enjoy it. Like, I know a lot of my friends liked this book, Do They Serve Beer in Hell? I never read it, but it seems to be very enjoyable for non-readers. So, yeah, I don't want to suggest any of these books. It's just too obvious. But so I want to tailor this a little bit to like these serious men, and I'm like thinking, how did I get out of it? So I'll show you. One potential route, basically. And people are different. I don't know anything about Faceless Junior. I don't know anything about him. Feel free to subscribe, Faceless Junior. I think I read cool books, but anyway, not always serious. Let's get right into it. And I said I thought about it, which I did, but I didn't really think about how I do the video. Let's get started right here. I bet if he's taking himself seriously as a young man, he's read Sun Tzu, The Art of War, which is very important. Everybody watching, you didn't read this one? Go check it out. It's good for you. Even though you'll never be the general of a Chinese medieval army, there's lots of interesting things to think about in here. Okay, I'm just going to assume that he read this one. If he didn't, go get him a copy. I got these at Barnes & Noble. I got a couple of them here. These editions are pretty cool. I'll show you them later. We don't have a ton of time. So that's Art of War. So if he read that, he probably would like Go Rin no Sho, or the Book of Five Rings, which is written by an Edo period samurai. Edo period is like a peaceful time in Japanese history after Sengoku, and Sengoku is a long stretch of time that's just dominated by different military dictatorships, basically. That's when the samurai were at their peak in Sengoku, and then Edo is the decline of the samurai, because they just become like kind of designated to the courts because there's no more wars. Like wars are pretty much kind of coming to an end. There's a big span of peace during Edo period. And they also banned swords inside the cities and all kinds of stuff to basically make the samurai more or less useless, and a lot of them become kind of like these vagabond kind of characters. Um, okay, that sounds cool, right? Because it is cool, and that's Miyamoto Musashi, and he chose to keep his sword, and he got into many sword fights with other samurai, and he killed and maimed lots and lots of people, and he survived to write a book about it. He eventually opened up a sword fighting school, and yeah, trained other samurai in sword fighting and lots of other stuff too. He's a very well-rounded guy. He's not a brute at all. You'll see that, yeah, Japanese sword fighting is a lot different than basically any other sword, like European swordsmanship, Southeast Asian swordsmanship. Very practical, and so is the Japanese sword fighting. But there's definitely an art to it. It's just undeniable, and that really is explained and comes to show with these books that I'm presenting to you, and hopefully maybe you're somebody that's in the situation where you're a young man, you're reading a bunch of like cool philosophy books and yeah, nonfiction and stuff like that. Well, instead of reading Blood Meridian or Fight Club or I don't know what else are you supposed to like. I don't know, but try Five Rings, Go Ren no Show, because it's this could be a bit of a portal for you. Oh, hold on tight. Okay, everybody on BookTube wants you to read this one, Shogun. Okay, it's probably good. I read like the first 150, 200 pages. It's probably good. Why did I stop reading Shogun? Because I'd rather reread Musashi. To be completely honest, it's not even close. Not even close. Um, this is the fictionalized epic serialization of the life story of Musashi. So it's full of sword fights, different courts, and political intrigue. There's some romance going on as well, and a lot of fiction. It's a lot of fiction. There's a lot of very silly, like what we think of as things that writers aren't supposed to do. Like what do they call that? Deus ex machina, where the author will all of a sudden, and then something came out of nowhere and saved the day. That kind of thing. It happens all the time in this, and I think personally that really just after a while I was just like, well, who cares? I'm really enjoying the story, and it's about one of my favorite guys, Miyamoto Musashi. I'm gonna keep reading, and I did, and yeah, it's amazing. It really is amazing. This book is not cheap. It's not. It hasn't been printed that many times, so it's gonna cost you probably like $40 or something to get a copy of it. But there's I've never read anything like it, and I've been looking for something like it since. And I'm telling you, Shogun is not that. And I want to read Shogun. I'm not trying to diss Shogun or anybody that enjoyed it. It's just when I read it, I wanted this part two, and it just, yeah, it wasn't scratching that itch. Okay, now maybe you already read Go Ren no Show. Maybe you're a very serious young man, and I underestimated you. Okay. Hagukare, The Art of the Samurai. Now, this is just going to add fuel to the fire. If you read Go Ren no Show and you're like kind of hesitant about taking my advice and reading this amazing samurai epic, and like the end scene, like oh my gosh. ugh. You know, Musashi's most famous for his most famous sword fight, his duel, is he he killed a guy with an oar. Like, he met a guy on a sandbar. He came on a boat, sharpened the oar, you know, not sharp, but just like, you know, into a shape, and then beat a guy, a trained swordsman. He beat him to death with it. That's like his kind of famous final duel. I think it was his final duel, but come on. If you're not sold and you're not buying that, go get this, because this is nonfiction. And why am I suggesting this? One, because it's awesome. Two, because the stories in it are a mixture of fact and like rumors and hearsay and different anecdotes. And so it'll kind of train your brain a little bit to accept that there's useful information in things that aren't historically accurate, if that makes any sense. Because the problem, my opinion, because I went through this big time, guys. Like I said, I made the channel because I was having a big like dilemma with taking my reading just like way too serious, and I really was, it was a discredit to myself. And the problem was I was just too rigid, and everything, yeah, I think had to be a certain way. And if you just can kind of go along for the ride and appreciate what the writer is doing, and it helps a lot. And then, yeah, like I said, if you could pick this up and read this, I mean, once you know, you'll be with the best of the fiction readers, I promise. By the end of this, you know, you'll have all the tools you need to enjoy serious fiction, because there's just lots of things that can't be, a lot of experiences and that just are not going to be conveyed in nonfiction or these kind of serious books, in my opinion. So yeah, keep reading. That's number one. You know, if this doesn't interest you at all, just keep reading. That's really important. And yeah, let me know in the comments if maybe you have an idea of like a book down this kind of like similar line that you would think people would like to read if they're taking themselves in their reading just a little bit too seriously. And let me know if when you were in your 20s, if you were reading and you had this problem too, because I think it's very common. But yeah.